Hey guys, welcome back to the Fulco. It's been a little while, obviously, with the international break, but delighted to be back with Tottenham playing football and getting victories. And what a great victory it was this weekend. So 4-1 at home against the Hammers. Before we kind of get into a few bits and pieces about how the game went, the tactics and things like that. One of the things that I, in my absolute lack of wisdom, when I'm looking for progression of a group and a team and a particular project within a football club, is I try to look at the evolution against previous results. And now there's 100 reasons why you shouldn't do that, and why they're not directly relevant. But sometimes, if, for example, I think last season when we played West Ham at home, there were lots of mitigating circumstances in terms of why we didn't get a result in that game, the way that the game went. It was our injury/suspension crisis and two really odd ricochets and two West Ham, unlikely West Ham goals from that. When I think of things like that, I try to think to myself, okay, the evolution of this team versus a team that has also spent money in the summer. They've changed their manager in terms of trying to do something different and start a new project. You can obviously say, okay, they've taken a little step backwards to go forwards, but they have invested in their squad, in their first team. They've got some pretty good players, including some that we were potentially interested in. And for us to come away with a fairly convincing victory feels pretty good. It feels like we were putting right some of the wrongs of last season. Now, as I said, there's lots of reasons why that doesn't really stand up, but it makes me feel better. So if we shouldn't have lost to West Ham last season at home, and then this season we beat West Ham at home, it makes me feel better. In the same way that we drew, having played awfully against West Ham away, if we then go to West Ham and match or improve on that, again, I feel like it's us taking a step forward. It's going to a ground where we didn't pick up all 3 points, and potentially we do, or we go there and we perform better than we did last year, which is, really what we're looking for. And the results, I think, will come when you put the performances on. So anyway, apart from my own craziness with those kind of things, looking at the game, it started off okay. It was fine. It wasn't brilliant. We weren't blowing West Ham away, and they were really, really competitive. They played a really good game. Their press was good. They defended well, as you know, a West Ham team will. And they've got really good players, and they've got players that can hurt you on the break. And they exploited us. We did have one chance kind of in between, but they had the first real good chance of the game with Kudus. And again, it's down in that right-hand channel. And that little area, which I'll talk a little bit about, in between Udogie and the midfielders, that was exploited. Ball across, nobody tucking around, nobody tucking in the far side, and Kudus has an effort which is well saved by Vicario. We had our warning, and then we paid the price by conceding the first goal a little while later. And again, I am very concerned, and you'll see this in the Brighton game, in some of the goals we conceded, the last two, I think, goals we conceded, and the build-up to those. The way this system works and the amount of pressure it puts on those two full-backs is enormous. And I still feel that we don't have those defensive instincts from the other players around to help them out in situations where they need to be helped out. And so I think sometimes it's far, far too easy to get in around the full-back. So whether it's outside wide of the fullback, and then with a very, very easy ball inside, so kind of into that area in front of the penalty area and in between the fullback and the centre half. I feel it's really, really easy to get a ball into that little channel, and then you're really in a position where you can start moving us about. Good players will get in there and they'll make things happen. Brighton did it to us. They did it directly after kickoff in the second half, and West Ham did it to us as well. So they were getting into that pocket. They were either getting out wide, or they were getting a very, very easy ball from out wide into that area. And sometimes you can even play that ball all the way from an opposition's defence if they're high enough up they can slide the ball into that little zone just between the fullback and the centre half. And if you've not got pressure on the ball, and if you're not cutting off that passing lane, it can create a lot of problems. And because of the nature of the team we're playing, and at the time we were playing with 2 effective number 10s, or maybe an 8 in Decky and a 10 in Madders, with Biss as the 6, we just don't have, or we didn't at that point have the personnel and the instincts to be in there and to snuff that out. And so West Ham knew they had to defend resolutely and they would get chances, and it worked for them. So when they went 1-0 up, they were probably feeling pretty good about their game plan, and they were probably hoping to execute that multiple times. Where we do deserve credit is we managed to get over the line with that goal back before half time. It's always really, really important in terms of changing the psychology of the game, particularly at home. For us, the fans, going in 1-0 down is a very, very different, we grumble and we moan, and we've got 15 minutes to stew on the fact that we're 1-0 down and it's annoying and we're seeing the same goals, and that translates itself onto the pitch and it gives a bit of edge to the players. So getting that goal was really, really important, and it came from the man of the moment, the man of the season, including pre-season, which is Decky. He's been phenomenal. He's been absolutely fantastic for us, and he continues to do Decky things in this role that he seems to prefer, in that 8/10. He's got great body swerve. He's really strong. He's technically fantastic. He's got really good touch, and a lot of what he's doing is working, and it really does mesh the play because he doesn't concede possession that often, and therefore our attacks can flow. What we've been guilty of a lot in our midfield three is either slowing the play down, which sometimes Maddison can be very guilty of, as we look to select that killer ball, instead of sometimes just moving it. Just move it. And while the ball's moving, that's where you make your assessments. I think that's one of the areas that Man City are absolutely phenomenal. They will keep the ball moving at times, and it looks a bit mindless and a bit side to side, but actually what they're doing is assessing what's in front of them as the ball moves, as opposed to receiving the ball. I'm not under any pressure. There's not a press on me because it's a deep block, and I look up, and all it allows the other team to do is really, really work on its shape and work on its movement. And if that ball's not moving, I, as a defender, only have to worry about what's happening in and around me. Whereas if the ball is moving, I need to worry about where the ball's going and the changing angles and distances, the changing pictures that I'm seeing, and the movements of the players around me. And when you start to add all of that up, it becomes much, much harder, and good players will exploit it. I don't think we're the best at it, but what Decky's allowing us to do is to really be fluid and to really keep our attacks moving at quite a pace. And it's almost, our attacks sometimes, even though we're in possession of the football, they're almost like counter-attacks because we move so quickly and we're so aggressive and there's so much hard running going on. So great stuff from us in terms of winning the ball. So West Ham are on the attack, we go ahead and we win the ball. It's actually Decky that presses in a wide position. He doesn't get to the ball, but he puts doubt in the West Ham player's mind. He goes to step over the ball, he throws himself on the floor, nothing doing, and then Solanke gets in and does what he also has been doing brilliantly in terms of his running and his pressing. He nicks the ball round the corner, and then we play a very nice combination going up the pitch, and then it ends up with Decky, with Maddison getting the ball, playing it into Decky, and then Decky gets a shot, which Areola can't stop. And again, I really like the finish. So our left footer coming in, everyone's thinking bend it, second post, but actually just reversing it inside that near post, depending on where the keeper's standing and whether he's just taken that step to start to cover his far post, can be a devastating finish. No one was better at that than Harry Kane for us. He was absolutely brilliant at reversing it back towards the post that he's closest to. So we get the goal. Wonderful to see a ball spinning along and the spin going in our favour for once, so off both posts, and then the spin takes it onto the inside of the post and into the net, thankfully. So it's about time. We had other chances. Let's not be unfair on the first half. We had a lovely effort from Son, where he picks up inside the left-hand side of the penalty area. Lovely fade as if he's going to drag it towards the outside and cut it, which is a very common move that we use, but actually he sends everybody going the other way and, you know, bends it just wide of the post. We had the Brennan Johnson, beautiful kind of bouncing up volley, half volley, laces, you know, top of the lace, absolute beauty. I mean, I've not seen another angle of it, so I don't know how close it was, but it looked fairly close, and it would have been an absolute peach if that one had flown in. And then Pedro Porro decides, after some lovely play from us coming down the ball, played across, and Pedro Porro has been watching, you know, YouTube compilations of West Ham, and they must have, you know, Tottenham West Ham, probably the 4-3 in the Stalteri, and he's probably accidentally seen the Paolo Di Canio, and he's gone for it. And that would have been the ultimate irony. Such a shame that one didn't fly into the top corner. But anyway, another good move and a good effort. So overall, first half we were doing okay. But what's really interesting to me is the speed that Postecoglou, you know, has made the change that everybody's talking about, making a difference for us in the second half. What's actually interesting to me is I felt we needed a change earlier. So again, I was almost feeling like we'd waited too long, that the balance was wrong. And it felt to me like I'd be so interested to see the sideline cam of Postecoglou, because it may well be that he'd identified it earlier and the Decky goal just led them to a decision where they've decided, right, half time, we're going to do this at half time, let's get in either at 1 or let's see what we're doing at 1-1, and let's see what we're doing at half time, and then we'll go for it from there. So I'd love to see, when it wasn't really working out after the West Ham goal, and, you know, we were huffing and puffing but not creating much more, whether there was talk on the side, whether Pat got up and did a warm-up, you know, an enthusiastic warm-up, and whether they were considering it earlier. So that would tell me whether they were actually considering it earlier. But he's identified it. We're playing with Maddison and Decky. We were getting overrun. They were outrunning us and out-fighting us, and it was a bit too easy for them to just sit in and then hit us on the break. And so bringing on Pat had the desired effect. Matters evidently really upset about being subbed. It would be horrible, especially as you then go to see that it was absolutely spot on and the right thing to do, and the team goes on and is a lot better in the second half. He can rightly point to the fact that when he was taken off, it was 1-1. We were in the ascendancy, and his role in the first half, he did not have a bad half. We should also give credit to him. He makes a really nice run. He gets an assist for the Decky goal, but he should get 2 assists because he makes an absolutely lovely outside blindside run, which again just gives defenders something to think about, because Decky could have just popped the ball through the defensive line to him, or he could have reversed it directly to feet. So it gives them more to think about, and it pins their positions, and Decky does the rest with a really good finish. So credit, he gets an assist and the perfect run, not a lazy run where he just, you know, he's done his bit, he passes and then he just eases off and stops running to see if the ball comes back to him. He runs on, he makes that dangerous threatening run. So credit where credit's due. Second half, excellent, much better, much more dynamic. It looked like we really were aggressive in everything we did, more aggressive than we were in the first half, and our running power seemed to overtake West Ham's ability to deal with it. When we're looking at the second goal, good players doing good things, and then little moments that make a difference. So Udogie has not covered himself in glory. He might not be fit recently, but he's not had the best of run of things, and West Ham's first goal starts first and foremost with him defending poorly and allowing Bowen to get goal side. There's absolutely no reason for it. I do accept that he was involved in like 2 or 3 defensive actions before that, so he's running around a lot, but there's no excuse. Once he is responsible for his man, he knows that Bowen can go both ways, but he cannot let him start on the goal side and then continue on the goal side, because he's got a much easier ball across. He has to force him to turn around and at least delay. And then I want to say again, I didn't see it, but I want to see, because we've only got 1-6, we've only got one defensive player coming in, that player's got to come in and protect that little area where you send Bowen back into. And on the other side, Brennan Johnson's got to do better. He's got to tuck in. Again, defensive instincts on these things that we have to improve on. But back to the second goal. Sonny with a lovely ball outside of the right foot. He had 2 of those in the game that were effective for us. And then Udogie, again, what everybody thinks he's going to do, which is what we do a lot, is we get into these little zones and then we try and flash it across. He doesn't. He stops on it. He turns it back. That sends all of the West Ham defensive line, including the defender that's trying to block the cross. And there were a load of those in the first half where we got loads and loads of corners from having the near post cross blocked. He didn't do it this time. And that is good players doing good things. And he was able to just roll it to Bissouma, who stepped onto it. He's reaching for it. He's stretching a little bit, but he takes it side foot and he kind of whips it with a bit of top spin into the grass, and gets a bit of luck, goes through a defender's legs, and the goalkeeper can't get back to it. So that's all well and good, and it's a nice finish. Good to see Bis getting on the score sheet as well. The third goal is again an example of the unsung work that Solanke does. We win it in midfield, and one of the things that Solanke's so good at is, even if he doesn't directly win the ball, is because he's such a willing runner from up top, when he comes backwards, what he forces midfielders, for example, to do is he forces them to stay forward facing. How often do you see, including Tottenham, we don't see what we like and we turn around, right, we'll recycle, we'll start again and we'll go again. What Solanke does really, really well is he's so in your face or behind you that you don't have that option is taken away. And now you've had that turnaround and that easy option taken off you, and the game starts to get more and more urgent. The closer you get and the more time goes on and the more players start to press in on you, they have to make decisions and they have to make passes, and they can get them wrong or they can give them to the wrong player. And that is one of the things that Solanke is bringing to us that's absolutely brilliant and should not go unnoticed. And so we win it in midfield. Again, Son's got the ball. He plays it outside of the foot into the right channel. Decky takes the ball on, reverses it back to Son, who comes on a tight overlap on the right hand side. Now, I think Decky actually gets the reverse a little bit wrong. It's not the best one in the world, so it kind of puts it slightly under Son's feet. He digs it out and we get a bit of luck. So, off the goalkeeper, off the defender, and then back into the goal. But we get a bit of reward for some very good play. So winning the ball deep, playing up quickly, playing through the thirds, and then, you buy a ticket and we get lucky and we get the goal, but no less than we deserved in terms of the way that we were playing and what we were doing. And great to see Jean-Claire Todibo getting his first Tottenham goal. All due respect to him, I think he is actually quite a good player, but he had a really, really tough game this time. No more so than the fourth goal, where Sarr nicks the ball, and he's following him. We're doing quite well. We've got them pressed. Sarr nicks it, opens himself up, and plays an absolutely lovely pass. And again, it shouldn't be underestimated that at that level, Premier League level, the easy ball in inverted commas would be to clip it over the top. So there's no chance of a midfielder, or I think it's actually the fullback who's quite high, being able to cut it out. You could float that over the top into a space or over to the player. That makes it much harder for the receiving player. He has to bring that ball down under control, and there'll be a centre half in his face. He doesn't. He plays an absolutely wonderful whipped ball, beats the fullback in the centre circle, and it's into feet, and it means it's under control. Great touch, under control immediately, and that lets Sonny go on. And as I've said in previous videos, I think he's looked tired previously. This break has done him the world of good, it looks like, and absolutely wonderful to see. 3 step overs thrown so quickly. He completely destabilizes Todibo, and and it's a lovely finish in under the goalkeeper at his near post. So great to see, wonderful from Sonny. Huge credit to Sarr, who was nicking the ball, and he held it, didn't give it away, and he had a really positive effect in terms of what he did with it as well. So that's the kind of thing we want to see. The rest of the game is remarkable only for the fact that Kudus didn't get 3 red cards plus maybe a yellow in there somewhere as well. He's lost his head a la John McGinn in the Villa game. And again, when this Tottenham team start and the Postecoglou system clicks and we start to roll teams over, they lose their heads. Fernandes at Man United, McGinn for Aston Villa last season, Kudus in this game, they lose their heads, and it's, I'm not saying there's going to be red cards every time, but players lose their heads in different ways, and it allows you to continue building and scoring more goals and being more effective. So delighted to see it work. I think that there's a lot to be happy with. Seeing Richarlison back on the pitch as well is positive, and we want him to get more minutes now and really build up his fitness and get to sharpness. And I guess the only other thing that some people have been talking about is Mikey Moore not getting minutes over Werner, and Werner still looks a shadow of the player he was for us last season, and the player he was for us last season is maybe not good enough for a lot of people anyway. So he's having a really, really hard time. I just really hope that it clicks for him, and my feeling is that's why Postecoglou's playing him. He's trying to play him into some form, and I don't buy the fact that this is stunting Mikey Moore, because I think he'll get the minutes he needs across this season, in the Europa League particularly. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the game. It doesn't really matter how you play when you beat someone like West Ham. We love beating West Ham. They absolutely love beating us. So delighted with the result, but really, really delighted with the overall manner of the performance. Again, plenty still for us to do defensively, plenty for us to tighten up on and get a bit better at. But good result, made all the better by some of the other results on the weekend. I'll let you take a guess as to which ones they were. But I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you after the next game.